You wake up, and before your feet hit the ground, your mind is already racing. What if I fail today? What if I'm not enough? What if something goes wrong? You haven't even taken your first step, and already the weight of imagined outcomes has chained you to fear. This is the prison of worry, and most of the time, it's not even built from real bricks. It's smoke, illusions, stories we tell ourselves about things that haven't happened and probably never will. Worry isn't preparation. Worry isn't awareness. Worry is fear disguised as logic. It dresses itself up like you survive. But what it's really doing is draining your energy before the battle even begins. You're losing a war that hasn't started. You're bleeding from wounds that don't exist. Most of the pain you feel when worrying isn't coming from reality. It's coming from projection. Your brain runs simulations of disaster, heartbreak, embarrassment, failure. It paints vivid pictures of things going terribly wrong, and you respond to these pictures as if they were facts. Your heart pounds, your muscles tighten, your mood shifts. But stop and ask yourself this: where's the threat? Where is the actual danger? In the moment, there's nothing there, just a thought, a shadow. But the body believes it because the mind won't stop feeding it. You see, the mind is an incredible tool, but a terrible master. If left unchecked, it spirals, it obsesses, it loops. That's the nature of worry. It keeps you running, but takes you nowhere. It convinces you that by worrying, you're being responsible. That somehow, if you worry enough, you'll prevent the bad thing from happening. But all you're really doing is rob yourself of clarity, of joy, of focus. Worry doesn't protect you from the future. It robs you of the present. You need to step back and realize this. Most of what you're afraid of is just mental fiction, a guess, a possible storyline. And when you let those stories rule your decisions, your mood, your energy, you hand over your life to ghosts. Fear becomes your compass, and no one builds anything great when fear is leading the way. Now, I'm not saying to ignore risk. I'm not saying to be reckless. I'm saying respond to what is, not to what he might be. When the moment arrives, you'll be strong enough. You'll adapt. You'll face it. That's what you were built for. But to suffer 1,000 times before the challenge even knocks on your door, that's not strength. That's slow suicide. That's mental erosion. And it's when you decide to cut off the loop. It starts with awareness. When the mind starts spiraling, don't feed it. Step back, breathe. Watch it like a cloud pacing through the sky. Temporary, not truth. You don't need to chase every thought down its rabbit hole. You don't need to believe every fear your mind throws at you. Thoughts are not commands. They're not prophecies. They're just electrical signals in your brain. And you get to decide which ones matter. Worry thrives on passivity. It multiplies in silence. So talk back, call it out. Ask yourself, is this real? Is there something I can do right now about this? And if not, let it go. Because holding it doesn't prepare you, it poisons you. Think about this. How many times have you survived what you thought you couldn't? How many times did the thing you feared most never even happen? The track record is there. You've faced storms before, and you're still here. That means you've got something inside you that can weather whatever comes next. But you've got to stop sacrificing your strength on the altar of imaginary pain. That's not bravery. That's bondage. You want to flow. You want to rise. Then start by dropping the weight that was never yours to carry. Worry is imagined pain, and you weren't made to live in fear. You were made to lead. So reclaim your mind, own your breath, and show up to the present moment with your full power. Because freedom starts the moment you stop bowing to the future and start commanding the now. You want peace, real peace. The kind that doesn't fade the moment life throws something unexpected your way. Then you're going to have to understand something most people never do. Control is limited. It's selective. It's not something you get to have over everything. And the sooner you accept that, the stronger you become. Because the problem isn't that life is chaotic. The problem is that you're trying to control what was never yours to command, while ignoring the power you do have. Worry often starts where control ends. You try to predict every outcome. You obsess over what others might say, do, think. You stress about things miles ahead, things you can't touch, can't fix yet, and maybe never will. And the more you try to grab onto what's out of reach, the more powerless you feel. That's the trap. It's not the chaos itself that breaks you. It's the illusion that you were ever supposed to hold it all together. But imagine this. What if you cut the rope? What if you let go of needing to control the uncontrollable? What if you stopped spending your energy trying to bend the world to your will, and instead invested it in mastering what's right in front of you? Your thoughts, your focus, your response. That's where your power lies. You don't control what the world gives you, but you absolutely control how you meet it. You control your preparation. You control your principles. You control how long you let failure define you. You control how quickly you stand back up when life knocks you flat. And if you can master that, then you don't need to control everything else. Because no matter what happens, you've already chosen your response. People confuse surrender with weakness. But surrender isn't giving up. It's giving over. It's the decision to stop wasting energy fighting waves and instead learning how to surf. You stop flailing. You stop panicking. You let go of trying to steer the ocean and start focusing on steering yourself. And suddenly, things begin to move. Not because the world changed, but because you did. It's not about being passive. It's about being precise. You don't ignore problems. You identify what part of the problem is yours to handle. And then you handle it with everything you've got. You release the rest. You let it breathe. You let it go. You do not carry what isn't yours to fix. Most of the weight you're feeling right now, it's not yours. It's the world's expectations. It's fear of judgment. It's guilt from the past. It's anxiety about futures that haven't happened. You can't carry all that and expect to move forward. So stop trying to be invincible. Start being intentional. You control your attitude. You control whether you complain or create. You control whether you shrink back or rise. And when you start owning that, when you fully commit to mastering what is in your domain, something shifts. You begin to trust yourself again. You realize that the storm doesn't need to stop for you to move. You just need to stop giving your energy away to what you can't change. The truth is, most people live backwards. They obsess over everything outside and neglect the one battlefield they could actually win: themselves. But you're not most people. You're here because a part of you knows there's another way. A calmer way, a stronger way, and that way starts with a decision. To only fight battles you can win. You want to feel less overwhelmed. Then simplify your power. Divide the world into two categories: what you can influence and what you cannot, and draw a bold, immovable line between them. Wake up every day and ask, what's mine today? What can I build, improve, redirect? And if something isn't on that list, it's not yours today. It doesn't belong in your head or your heart. Let the world be what it is. Let the people say what they will. Let the storms come. And while all that's happening, you stay grounded. You choose your focus. You master your breath. You hold your values tight. And when you do, you'll find something you thought was missing: peace. Because peace doesn't come from controlling everything around you. It comes from owning everything within you. Worry is a slow death. It whispers in your mind, convinces you to stand still, to overthink, to delay. It feeds you false stories about what could go wrong and makes you believe those stories are prophecy. And the tragedy is, while you rot up in all that imagined fear, life is moving on without you. The opportunities are still showing up, but you're too frozen to answer the door. Worry paralyzes because it masquerades as preparation. It tricks you into believing that if you just think about a problem long enough, you'll somehow outthink the pain, dodge the risk, or eliminate the unknown. But that's not how it works. You don't beat fear by fantasizing about outcomes. You beat fear by moving. You see, action doesn't need your perfection. It just needs your presence. And the moment you start to move, even if it's clumsy, even if it's uncertain, worry starts to lose its grip. Because worry feeds on inaction. It grows in the space between intention and execution. But when you begin, even with trembling hands, you disrupt the loop. You shift from being controlled by fear to proving that fear wrong, one decision at a time. Here's what most people never realize: you don't need to feel confident to act. You just need to act to feel confident. Confidence isn't a prerequisite, it's a result. It's something built through motion. Every time you step forward despite the noise in your head, you send a message to yourself: move anyway. And that message, repeated over time, rewires everything. Worry wants you to believe that worst-case scenario is already unfolding. But action shows you the truth. Most of the time that fear you had, it was empty. The mountain was a shadow. The monster under the bed was just a pile of clothes. But you don't get to discover that until you face it, until you take the first uncomfortable, imperfect step. And I get it. Taking action doesn't guarantee success. Sometimes you try and still fall. Sometimes the door stays closed. But here's the key difference: when you act, you're learning, you're growing, you're adapting. Even if you fail, you move forward wiser than before. But when you worry and do nothing, you stay stuck. You build no experience. You gain nothing but anxiety and regret. Don't wait to feel ready. Read Nietzsche's Tife. Life doesn't pause while you debate. The clock's ticking whether you step up or not. So why not make your move now? Why not say yes to motion instead of letting the same thoughts circle your mind for the 100th time? Think about the greatest shifts in your life. None of them happened while you sat around worrying. They happened when you got tired of the spiral, stood up, and made a decision. Maybe you weren't sure, maybe your heart pounded, but you moved. And that movement was everything. It cut the fog. It brought clarity. And you walked out the other side stronger than you were before. It's not that strong people don't feel worry. They just don't give it the final vote. They listen to the doubt and then act anyway. That's the difference. That's the muscle you build every time you choose action over hesitation. You remind yourself who you really are beneath the noise. Someone capable, someone determined, someone who refuses to be owned by fear. And if your mind still tries to stalk you, still paints those pictures of failure, fine, let it. Let it scream, let it warn, let it twist every outcome into doom. But then move anyway, move in spite of it, because you are not your thoughts. You are not your fear. You are the one behind all of it, the one who decides. So whatever it is you're hesitating on, start. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. Speak the truth. Take the leap. Begin the project. Say the thing. Make the change. Even if your voice shakes, even if your knees are unsteady. Because once you move, the spell breaks. Once you move, the power returns to your hands. Your path will not be found by sitting and worrying about where to go. It will reveal itself one step at a time, only to the one who walks it. You might not realize it, but the state of your inner world, the thoughts you entertain, the emotions you carry, the beliefs you hold, has a direct, powerful influence on the way your life unfolds outside. It's not some abstract concept, it's a practical reality that every successful person understands deeply. Your external flow, your experiences, your interactions, they all respond to the condition of your inner landscape. Imagine your mind as the command center, the core from which all your reactions spring. When your internal state is cluttered with doubt, anxiety, or frustration, everything around you seems to slow down, stumble, or even resist. You find opportunities slipping through your fingers, conversations turning sour, progress stalling. Why? Because your internal chaos broadcasts itself outward, and the world responds accordingly. On the other hand, when your mind is clear, calm, and focused, your external life aligns with that energy. Doors open, people resonate with your presence, decisions come easier, and challenges feel less like barriers and more like puzzles waiting to be solved. This isn't magic. It's cause and effect. Too often, people look outward for solutions. They believe that if they just change the circumstances, fix the situation, or acquire more resources, then their life will improve. But that's putting the cart before the horse. The flow you want, whether it's success, peace, connection, or creativity, starts within. It starts with mastering your inner state. You see, your inner world sets the tone for your actions. If you wake up overwhelmed by worry or self-doubt, your choices throughout the day will be clouded by that haze. You'll hesitate when you should act, argue when you should listen, resist when you should embrace. The world around you is simply reflecting what you carry inside. This is why the most powerful people don't just focus on external tactics or strategies. They invest relentlessly in understanding and controlling their internal environment. They practice awareness. They cultivate discipline over their thoughts. They build resilience to emotional storms, because they know that controlling their inner state is the foundation for controlling their outer reality. Now, this isn't to say you'll never face difficulties or negative events. Life will always throw curveballs. But the difference lies in your response. When your inner state is grounded, you don't get tossed around by every external wind. You stay steady, adapt, and navigate with clarity. Your actions become intentional rather than reactive. Consider this: the same challenge can produce radically different outcomes depending on who faces it. Two people can experience the exact same setback. One spirals into despair, the other treats it as a stepping stone. What's the difference? The inner state, the mindset, the emotional framework. To shape your outer flow, you must start by observing what's happening inside. What thoughts dominate your mind? Are you fueling fear or hope? Are you focused on scarcity or possibility? Are your emotions running wild, or are they disciplined allies? Is your higher purpose? This awareness is your first step toward mastery. Without it, you remain at the mercy of your unconscious programming, letting old habits and conditioned reactions dictate your life. But when you become a careful observer of your mind, you gain the power to choose your responses and shape your reality consciously. It's also important to recognize that your inner state isn't static. It's fluid, and it shifts throughout the day. This means that your outer flow will shift too, unless you develop tools to maintain your inner balance. Practices like mindfulness, meditation, journaling, or simply pausing to breathe deeply reset your internal environment. They give you the chance to return to calm when storm clouds gather. Your environment, your relationships, your work, your creativity, they all flourish or falter depending on this internal ecosystem. When you take ownership of your inner world, you stop blaming external factors for your lack of progress. You stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. Instead, you become the source of your own stability and momentum. Ultimately, mastering your inner state is about reclaiming your power. It's about refusing to be a passive passenger in your own life. It's about realizing that no matter what happens outside, you can control how you experience it, and through that control, you influence everything else. So, if you want your life to flow differently, more smoothly, more successfully, more joyfully, start by tending to your inner garden. Cultivate thoughts that uplift, emotions that empower, and a mindset that adapts, because your outer world is simply a mirror of the state you carry within. You want change? Begin inside. The flow you seek is already waiting. It's time to align with it. Peace, real peace, isn't something that just happens to you. It isn't a passive state you fall into when the world finally stops throwing challenges your way. No, peace is a skill, a practice, a muscle you develop over time. It's something you train for every day, intentionally, like an athlete preparing for a championship or a craftsman perfecting his art. Many people think peace means avoiding conflict or eliminating stress. But that's a fragile kind of peace, a surface-level calm that shatters at the slightest disruption. True peace isn't about escaping difficulty. It's about mastering how you respond to it. It's an active engagement with life, not a retreat from it. Imagine peace as your internal fortress when the storms rage outside. Whether it's pressure at work, tension in relationships, or the uncertainty of the future, your fortress stands firm, but to build that fortress, you have to lay the bricks yourself. No one else can do it for you, and these bricks are made from habits, perspectives, and practices that reinforce your resilience. This skill of peace demands deliberate attention to your thoughts. Notice how your mind tends to race in moments of stress, how it pulls you toward worst-case scenarios, how it amplifies fear or frustration. That's the battlefield where peace is won or lost. When you train your mind to pause, to observe without immediate judgment or reaction, you create space. Space to choose how to act instead of simply reacting. Peace also requires cultivating patience. In a world obsessed with speed and instant gratification, patience feels like a lost art. But without it, peace cannot thrive. Patience teaches you to endure discomfort without panic, to accept delays and setbacks as part of the process rather than threats to your well-being. This patience doesn't mean resignation. It means steady commitment to what matters despite the obstacles. Another essential aspect is self-awareness. Without it, you can't catch erring in negative patterns or losing control over your emotions. By consistently checking in with yourself, recognizing what's stirring inside, you build a habit of emotional regulation. You learn to respond to triggers with calm rather than chaos, and this ability grows stronger every time you practice. Peace is not the absence of emotion but the mastery of it. You still feel anger, fear, or sadness, but you don't let these feelings dictate your actions. You hold the reins. You acknowledge the emotions, understand their roots, and decide whether to give them power or let them pass like clouds in the sky. And remember, peace is also about setting boundaries, both with others and yourself. It's about knowing what you will tolerate and what you won't, about protecting your energy and focus from distractions and negativity. Without clear boundaries, your peace becomes vulnerable to every external influence, easily shattered by demands or conflicts that serve your higher purpose. One of the greatest misconceptions is that peace means being passive or indifferent. But it's quite the opposite. True peace equips you to engage with the world fully, to face problems head-on with clarity and strength. It allows you to act from a place of centeredness rather than chaos, to lead rather than be led by circumstance. Training this skill takes time and effort. It might start with small doy apprentices, like mindful breathing when stress arises, journaling to process your thoughts, or intentionally choosing a calm perspective in the face of provocation. Over time, these small actions accumulate, reshaping your default state. What once was turmoil becomes tranquility, and when peace becomes your baseline, your entire life changes. Your decisions become wiser because they're less clouded by emotion. Your relationships deepen because you're more present and less reactive. Your challenges shrink in size because you meet them with composure and strength. This is not some lofty ideal reserved for monks or sages. This skill is accessible to anyone willing to commit. Peace is a power, a form of mastery over yourself and your environment. It's the foundation on which freedom and fulfillment are built. So, if you want your life to flow without the constant tug of anxiety and inner turmoil, start training peace as the active skill it is. Build your fortress brick by brick, day by day, and watch how your external world transforms as your internal calm grows. Peace isn't a prize you wait to win. It's the work you choose to do every moment.